This is Common Sense Generation. Common Sense Generation.
Hi guys, this is Common Sense Generation on our conference in London, and with me is Þórarinn, a podcaster from Iceland.
Right.
And this quick thought on that. This is the name
quick
of
thought
your...
on that. It's called Ein Pæling. Translates to quick thought on that, where I get politicians, I get thought leaders to try and sort of create a little bit more space, because your podcast is called Common Sense. I'm trying pretty much to do the same thing in Iceland.
So do you have any common sense on Iceland right now?
Well, I think the tide is turning. You can see it in this event. I think a lot of things are changing quite fast, and a lot of the political media, politicians are not sort of getting it exactly. But you can see that so many thought leaders that are picking up this trend, that obviously something is changing. You can see it in the youth. You can see it in a lot of people. They're thinking differently, and I think the tide is turning, and it will take a lot of capable people to grab that ball when the pendulum swing is turning more to the right. I think it will take a lot of capable people to grab that ball to try and steer it the right direction and navigate it.
Exactly. So what really worries me a little bit, that it will go way around to the other side, because when things are turned very, very on one side, and they tend to go the other way very strongly, where the virtue of common sense is, after all, the balance, certain not to be extremist in any direction.
Right. I share those concerns, and I can see the trends as they go more to the right. You can see that people are picking up, how is that? Yes, disconcerting features politically, and that's why I'm actually it's very important that we are pushing for this common sense, make common sense common again, because if the right people won't grab that ball, there will definitely be people that are willing to take on the issue and steer it and navigate it towards something that is dire.
I fully agree, and that's why the virtue of common sense, because at least we call it a virtue in the podcast, bringing from philosophy, is an important element, also in forms of education, but it also is this search for meaning, which is right now, I think, we thrown around.
Yeah.
But in a way that you're not becoming an ideologue in any forms of...
Exactly, and I mean, I think there's definitely true in some sense. I'm not very much of a Christian myself. I identify more as a cultural Christian. But you're right that people will find meaning in something, and I actually agree with some people that have been taking the stage here, that if you believe in nothing, you can believe in anything, and that is something that is actually happening. That's why I've actually enjoyed seeing a lot of the focus being put on the youth, because the youth is lost in a lot of sense, where we are focusing on very weird issues. We're teaching very weird issues, and the right hasn't allowed themselves to take on that ball, and the left politically has been able to isolate themselves within this sphere. So I think, and as we see that turning, I think that there are a lot of cracks being created in events such as this one, and so I'm hopeful, but also a little bit apprehensive of whether the right direction will be taken with regards to these issues.
This is Common Sense Generation. If you like this channel, please subscribe, share, and comment. Your voice really matters.
Fully understood, and this is sort of my concern, but I think that events like this are very opening, and they show also that this void has to be filled with something. That the approach that we were taking as becoming this liberal in the modern sense doesn't really bring any good fruits. It's empty. When young people don't want to marry at all, they don't want to have children, they don't want to establish those values, they're only career driven, or they are lost in their identity altogether, then there are no fruits of their actions and their life. And this is empty, and that's what a society cannot have.
Yeah, I mean, and we need to think about what the terms we're using, because I actually really much agree. There was a void that was filled culturally when like religion and like conservative values were sort of like pushed aside. There was a void, there, and we tell ourselves that we filled it up with very illiberal, although they call themselves liberal, filled them up with illiberal thoughts. We filled them up with all sorts of nonsense, trying to push certain agendas politically, with economics, with the sexual revolution, which was good to a large extent, but has really taken a dire turn.
But it became the idol itself.
Yeah, and it's in a void in itself. It's
And
actually
exactly.
it's void creating, and you can see that happening all the time now. That obviously the depression, with the lack of optimism with regards to opportunities, and it's actually
And
to a large extent,
fear, which is young people are so afraid of everything.
yeah, and it's not like it's not wrong in so many sense, in a large sense, because housing is incredibly expensive everywhere in the Western world. We have regulations that need to be deregulated because people need to have the freedom to choose on their own what pathway they want to take. And if we don't allow that, I think the authoritarian side of that pendulum swing will actually be much more attractive to these young people, because they don't see an opportunity. They are like depression increasing. That's actually the concerning side of this pendulum swing that I see. That if we're not able to fix the underlying grounding that we that hasn't been created and actually has been pushed aside, as I was mentioning, that's the perfect storm where
For a revolution,
authoritarians can actually take on and rule. And
Absolutely agree.
I think we're closer to that precipice than we like to think.
This is a perfect ground for any form of revolution, which
Right.
leads to totalitarianism in any form.
Yeah.
If we don't take a step back. Well, it was a great talk, and thank you for being on Common Sense Generation. And I'm happy that that Icelandic is actually full of common sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tide is turning in the Western world, and I think we'll win eventually. But like, there are some hard steps that need to be taken in the upcoming years.
And you, the viewers of Common Sense, thank you for watching, and definitely come to ARC.
This is Common Sense Generation.